Welcome to Uncut. I'm Steve Adubato. This is a series of very important conversations we're having on Uncut. This is simply called Confronting Racism. And last time this gentleman joined us, we talked about a rally that was held in Newark, New Jersey, my hometown, Brick City, on the 30th of May. It was peaceful, 12,000 people. Mayor Baraka was there. He participated. The police and public safety director, Anthony Ambrose, who happens to be white, born and raised in the same neighborhood I was born in, the North Ward of Newark, participated right there. This gentleman joining us was great to talk to us then. He's back with us on Uncut. He's Aqeela Sherrills, director, Newark Community Street Team. Aqeela, thanks so much again for keeping the conversation going about, quote, confronting racism.
Yes, sir.
So do this for us. We talked about that rally and how peaceful it was, but I want to go beyond it. Why do you think it's so difficult for so many of us to have an honest, difficult, but important conversation where we actually, quote, confront racism?
My belief is that, we live in a country where the very root of it is rooted in white supremacy, right? We've had, this historical system of enslavement that has impacted everybody. We all suffer from this sexual, physical, and psychological abuse that has rarely been confronted. I think that, as a result of the experience, there's very little dialogue and conversation that people engage in. And so there are very few intentional spaces for people to try to have this dialogue, just an honest, authentic dialogue about race in this country.
Let me take it from a different tack. Literally yesterday, and again, we're dating ourselves. We're doing this in, I guess is it the 11th of June, guys? I'll get the date wrong. But literally yesterday in southern New Jersey, I'm thinking Gloucester County, and we check out NJTV News, our partners, you'll see this. In the middle of a protest, a peaceful protest, there were a group of white, and I'm not going to call them supremacists. I don't know who and what they were. And I don't even know if you saw this, Aqeela, but there were Trump signs all around them, yeah, with American flags. There was a white guy kneeling on the neck of a dummy or whatever it was, saying, basically, you get what you deserve if you don't comply. Here's my point. Clearly, we all want to believe, there's a question here, that we all want to believe that that's the exception, that's the outlier. But there are so many of us who are white who either don't understand or hate like that. How do we include those folks, or do we exclude them, Aqeela, and say, listen, you're going to be left behind. We're not going to talk to you. You're hateful. You can't be a part of this. What do we do with that? Because it's real.
I think that, we have to create more intentional spaces in the culture for us to be able to have authentic dialogue and conversation.
Isn't it hard?
It's extremely difficult, because what we experience personally also connects us to, this whole historical dynamic, right? When people suffer, their own personal traumas, the sexual, physical, and psychological abuse that we go.
I lost my job. My kid can't get into college. I'm having a hard time. And now I'm supposed to feel for someone else who's not white because it's worse. I'm playing devil's advocate. Am I have that wrong?
No, you got it absolutely right. So then we project, those feelings of self-hate and trauma onto other people. Hurt people, and so.
Say that again.
Hurt people.
Play it out.
Yeah. So if you're, disconnected and you're traumatized, then you tend to project that kind of view onto other people. So it's very, it's not often that people are witnessed and given an opportunity to not be defined by the things that have happened to them. I mean, my belief is that, what has happened to us, what we have perpetrated, it doesn't define us. It only informs who we're actually becoming. So we have to create more intentional spaces for people to talk about the deep shames and secrets in their personal life as a way of accessing the gift of who they are. And this also has to be understood in the larger context of colonization. Colonization robbed us all, of our humanity. The genocide against Native Americans, the dehumanizing of people of African descent, to force, forcing people of European descent to be bystanders to that dehumanizing experience. We all lost something as a process. One of my mentors says that history belongs to the ancestors. There's nothing that we can do about the past, but we can do something about now.
So stay on that for a second. For those who are watching right now, say, okay, I get it. I understand. We need to also change the curriculum to be less Eurocentric and understand more of the history of what Blacks have faced in this country and the role that others have played, our forefathers, foremothers. However, come on, devil's advocate again.
Yes,
let's
sir.
move on. Let's move forward. Why do we keep harping on the past, you say?
Well, we haven't even dealt with the past. I mean,
how do you deal with it? How do we get to this?
I think it's about language, right? Because words actually it's the logos. It dehumanizes, right? So you say a Black American in this country was a former slave, and I say he was enslaved, because enslavement means that you put the onus on the people who actually perpetrated it, right? It's like to say that Black folks were slaves, it blames the victim, right? And so in this country, we haven't had an authentic conversation and dialogue about the enslavement of people of African descent in this country and the long-term traumatic impact and effect that it's had. We now talk about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences.
That's right.
We're now unpacking this whole idea about trauma.
How about social determinants of health, largely based on economics, race, poverty, et cetera? Go ahead.
Absolutely, but we don't apply it to 350 years of enslavement, of Black people, 50 years of Jim Crow. And we've only literally been out of enslavement in this country for 50 years, and we can't have an authentic dialogue in this country about, what has happened because of white guilt to a certain extent. White people feel that they were responsible, and it's like this, we weren't there, However, it's still important that we have an authentic dialogue and conversation. We need to talk about reparations. Some people might say, hey, I wasn't alive then, but yes, the inheritance.
What do you say to that?
I said that the inheritance has been carried over and carried down. And I think that reparations is a preparatory conversation so that we unpack the historical impact of enslavement, not just on Black Americans, but on everyone, right? W.E.B. Du Bois wrote a book in the early 1900s called The Soul of Black Folks. And he said that the collective suffering that we've experienced is our birthright. It's given us a double vision, a conceptual view of the world that few people hold, right? And he says that in the wound is the gift of who we are. And so there's this savant-like nature that exists in Black folks. There's nothing in the world that doesn't have the Black American imprint, nothing. And so I think that we have something really profound in this deep dialogue and conversation that we need to host in this country about race and the traumatic experience of enslavement and genocide, and forcing white folks to be bystanders to that type of trauma.
Last question. I know we ran over time, but I still want to ask this. Tell me why you're hopeful.
I'm hopeful because there are individuals like yourself, who are willing to host these type of hard conversations. There's individuals like Anthony Ambrose, who is a cop, and who's lived through that whole 1967 experience. But he shows up and he changes the whole dynamic of law enforcement in the city of Newark in the past 6 years since he's been here. I'm hopeful because they're real white allies. I'm hopeful that they're Black Americans who are no longer apologetic, and just, are speaking truth to power in terms of these dynamics. And I think that it's changing something.
I cannot thank you enough for not just talking with us, but way more importantly, the work that you and your colleagues at the Newark Community Street Team are doing in the city of Newark, being a model for everyone else. Doesn't mean we're perfect. We're far from it.
That's
but
right.
What you are doing, what I saw here in our hometown of Montclair, with high school students, our son happened to be involved with some terrific white, Black, brown leaders in Montclair High School, peaceful, coming together. We don't solve it, but we make some progress day by day. You honor us, Aqeela, and we thank you so much. All the best to you and your family.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate you.
Same here. This has been Uncut. I'm Steve Adubato. Make sure you check us out on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Confronting Racism. It's not one conversation. It keeps going. Check you out next time.
Thank you.